She Slayers, and welcome to another episode of She Slays the Day podcast. I am your host, Dr. Lauren Brunslick, and today is a marketer's dream. Is that what we'll say? It's absolutely one of those episodes that I got off and I went to Kirby and I was like, we need to start doing this. We need to start doing this. We need to start doing this. And honestly, as someone who's been in practice for 14 years, I don't know. Like, I knew that so we have Ryan Riders on today. And oh, wait, shoot, you guys, I asked him in his episode if it's Rider or Reader. And now I'm like, I think he said Reader. But now I'm questioning my entire I think it's Reader. Yep. This you'd think that this would be one of my things that I would really pay attention to. But here's why I'm gonna defend myself. I I give 0 poops if someone pronounces my name on stage, like, wrong. If they call me John Travolta could introduce me, and I just wouldn't care. For those of you who don't get that reference, mm, it's a good one. That was a good joke, and you just missed it. I'm not gonna waste time telling you about okay, I'll waste just a tiny bit of time. Adina Menzel, that's her name, right? That's Frozen's name, Elsa's name. Uh, John Travolta, like, so Frozen is having its moment. Let's take a short story and turn it long. Frozen is having its moment. Like the original Frozen, like Let It Go is like up for a Grammy or something. It's probably wins because it's Adina Menzel. And everybody knows this chick's name now. And John Travolta is introducing her to sing live at the Grammys, I think, Frozen, Let It Go, and he just, like, butchers both names, like, all he had to do was read it. Anyways, it was funny, you could look it up. It's not really that funny to look at, you got the gist of it. So, what were we talking about? Ryan Reeder. So, I knew he wanted to talk marketing. I'm like, "Yeah, cool, I like marketing, sure." Mind blown, blown. So, I'm not gonna do a long intro here, even though we've already gotten into some, like these are educational stories. Like, anybody who says that these are ADHD rants, I would say, "Nay, nay." Without me, you know how many Gen Z people would be just, like, going around in life not getting all of our millennial jokes? Like, they wouldn't. These are pop culture references. You are welcome. You will win trivia in a bar someday, and I will accept your DM as a thank you when you're like, I actually know this from Lauren dragging out this story. All right. Only thing I'm gonna also throw in here is that I started reading a new book, Spark of the Everflame. Whoa, it's so good. There's no smut. Okay. And that's why I hadn't read it for a long time. It's so, so good. I might make Kirby read it, but like, don't feel bad for him. All the men listening, you're like, oh my God, poor Kirby. Kirby reads like over 100 books a year. So like it's basically asking him to listen to this book for the next 2 days while he's mowing the lawn and doing work and stuff like that. Because he's one of those brains, like, he can work in Excel spreadsheets and be listening to a book. It's insane. I can barely be listening to a single person and focus, let alone multitask like that. Okay. So like I was saying, I have seldom had a conversation with anyone in the chiropractic space that has as much knowledge about building a practice, but particularly about marketing than today's guest, Ryan. So we're going to get into his story. Basically, at one point, there was 8 offices for 10 years. I dig in. You know, I asked those questions like, what was leading? Like, what was going on? We're trying to diagnose his Enneagram. But he's now involved in some way with over 200 practices worldwide. So it is easy to see. So, like, I kind of start asking him about my specific scenario, and you can just see him go into business mode and like solve. So he's obviously incredibly knowledgeable. So we went a little long. I think this is probably closer to a 90-minute podcast, which is why I'm trying to keep this short for you. But I took away like at least 3 or 4 different strategies that like I took to Kirby and I'm like, yep, we're going to do this. So I forget if we talked about it off air. I know we talk about it on air, but he's got 2 events coming up. One is May 18th in Orlando. And I am going to do my hardest to get my butt there because I cannot, like, if this is what I learned in just this short time with him, I can't imagine a full day just learning marketing. So I did email him afterwards and I was like, okay, I want to be there, but I also want my guests to be able to be there. So he's got two events. May 18th in Orlando, where he's going to cover everything you need to know about how to double your new patients in the next 90 days. And you'll learn that he used in this episode that he used to get 10,000 new patients a year for his own offices. Yep. Just like you do, and now generates 10,000 leads every month for practices around the world. So he knows what he's doing, so he can help. But then if you can't make it to that quick turnaround in Orlando, May 18th, and flights are cheap to Orlando right now, so you can do it. He does have a mastermind in July in Atlanta with personal development legend Les Brown. So if you would like to attend any of those, either of those events, the first 25 of you that go to, oh, there's a link. He sent me a link. Where is it? Oh, dcpracticegrowth.com/tickets. Okay. And use the promo code SheSlays. That's all one word, all lowercase. You are going to get 50% off your ticket. Okay. So it's just the first 25 of you. Either of those events, dcpracticegrowth.com/tickets. We'll have that link below for you. And you can save 50% on your ticket. I'm going to try and finagle a free one out of him. I'm just, so I won't take one of the first 25. No, I'm joking. I'll pay like a good person. I don't need to mooch off everyone in life. Okay. So, I don't know. Do we even need his bio? We need his bios. I feel like I've told you his entire life story already. So, Dr. Ryan Rieder is the former owner of 8 offices that exceeded $7 million revenue each year, and he now owns DC Practice Growth, which is one of the fastest growing consulting groups and agencies in the world. His number one selling books, New Patient Avalanche and Conversion Alchemy, have been purchased by hundreds of chiropractors worldwide. He drops the link for you to get that book for free. And I don't want to overspeak, but I'm pretty sure it's like a real book. Like he's going to ship you a real book. It's not like an ebook. So that is towards the end of the episode, and he will drop that link for you, and we can have that in the show notes for you as well. So let's pray and get into this because, and like if you're walking, if you're driving, that's fine. You can re-listen because remember that, like, especially on Spotify. I don't know if this happens on Apple, but like you can, it's like broken down into different, like, so you can jump back if you're like, ooh, when they were talking about this, you can jump back. But if you are able to listen to this episode with pen and paper and like full attention, I would recommend it. And then I also wouldn't mind if, like, so by the end of the episode, I have diagnosed Ryan with his Enneagram type. If you agree or disagree, my little Enneagram files with a PH files means you love the Enneagram. DM me if you're like, ooh, he could also be. I would love to hear it, but I don't think I'm wrong. All right, so let's take a deep breath, calming breath. Let the caffeine just like chill out for a minute. Always center ourselves. Dear God, thank you so much for the playground that is entrepreneurship and marketing. Sometimes I think we just spend so much time. Like I'm reminded of the phrase new girl energy that someone brought up in one of my masterminds a while ago, where it was this like creative brain when you're starting a practice, where you're just like things are firing and you are coming up with ideas and you have this gumption and you are like doing these things. And then so many of us just get bogged down in the micro matters of day to day. And like, God, I just want this to be just a re-energizing conversation. For the Kairos, like, yes, new Kairos, you're going to get a bunch of stuff out of it. But like for the Kairos that are maybe a little more like me, who've just been like, I've been around the block in marketing and old school and new school, and I just don't know what to do because like we have this incredible product that does not sell itself. I wish it did. I wish we had something that sold itself like Botox or no, I'm just kidding. It's a joke. It's the joke, guys. Um, and so chiropractic needs us to not be burnt out and downtrodden about being beat up by failed marketing. Oh my God. You guys, I have done so much failed marketing, so much failed marketing. Anybody from stage who says they haven't failed, like run from them because like it's in those failures that those lessons come and that wisdom comes. And I'm just so grateful for people like Ryan to help chiropractors to continue to be energized in this topic of practice growth and spreading the message of chiropractic and creative ways to get people to stop and listen to this cool thing that we have. In your name we pray. Amen. All right, peeps. Without further ado, here is my conversation with Dr. Ryan Rieder. Enjoy. All right. So Ryan, you are like originally from the UK?
I'm actually originally South African.
Okay, well, I should warn you that I don't know what this disorder is, but like as people are listening, so the more I talk to someone with an accent, the more my I start to like simulate them. So I'm really hoping that I get off this call in time before I turn into a South African accent. You have a delightful accent, and I'm jealous.
Well, good luck with that because it's a mix between South African, like Dutch, British. There's the odd Americanism coming through now that I live in Florida. So good luck with that.
You know, like when they make fun of basic white chicks who like go to the UK for like a month and come back and have a 10-year British accent. That would be me. It would be me. I would just somehow pick it up. So you just moved to Florida.
Yeah, moved to Florida. True story. We been kind of working on visas and stuff for a while. It's been on our hearts for a while as a family. But we moved. We actually came. We got our visas in December, and then we came on vacation, and we went to Orlando, Tampa, and Sarasota to look for places to stay. And long story short, we found an amazing school for my daughter, and that was on the Friday she got accepted, and then and my kids and family were in Orlando. And then I saw a house on the Saturday. I came to view the place, and the owner showed me the place, and I said, I'll take it on the spot. I hadn't told my wife yet. Went back to the hotel where all my kids and my mother-in-law and everything was having a cool time on vacation. And I said, flights were on the Monday home back to the UK. And I kind of said, why don't we just stay? And that's how we moved to Florida, literally with our suitcases from on vacation. And we've just been here for 8 weeks now.
But you were planning.
Yeah.
Okay.
We were planning to come.
This is where I'm reminded that it's good I'm in therapy because I've not worked out all my control issues. So, but like you were planning on moving to the US, just like not that month.
Yeah, potentially not even for another 6 months. Almost everyone I've told that story to who just says what you said is like, Mom.
And I read enough romance novels that like by this point I should be like, oh my God, what a dream. And I was just like, the fuck?
I know. Listen, my poor wife. My poor wife. But anyway, we're here and we settled and kids are enjoying it. And we're spending afternoons in the pool and on the beach on the weekends and having a good time.
So what is your career like up until this point? Are you a chiropractor? Like, so here's the other thing I should warn my guests. I do no research, like zero research. I like learning in real time who the heck people are. Yeah. So like, are you a chiropractor?
Yeah. So I'm one of 5 first generation chiropractors. So my wife studied with me. So myself,
so my wife's a chiropractor also.
Yeah. Myself, my wife, my brother's a chiropractor, his wife's a chiropractor, my sister-in-law is a chiropractor. My other sister-in-law was the practice manager for 4 of our 8 offices at one point. And then my mother-in-law did the counts at one point for the business. So we're all in.
Was either of your parents a chiropractor or grandparents?
Nothing.
No. So you just like, boom, exploded. So, okay, whose idea was it first?
Oh, it's 100% my idea. So, I like to remind the family of this on a regular basis that they all have me to thank for this path in chiropractic. Don't worry, I never let them forget that.
Well, I love that you said thank because there is, gosh, so you're not in the women chiropractors group, but I would like to think that there's probably like a male equivalent on Facebook. But like, I feel like I am just surrounded by so much negativity around being in the chiropractic profession. So there's a lot of positivity on stages, you know, like if you're a speaker, you can't be honest about like things like that. You have to be always pro. But like out in the real world, I feel like there's a lot of really struggling chiropractors, but like everybody in your family is like just killing it and super thankful they became a chiropractor.
Listen, you actually, even when that sentence is said, I get slightly triggered. I'm like, what? Chiropractic's like the most, oh my goodness. I'll tell you how, let me just quickly tell you how I actually became a chiropractor. I'd never seen a chiropractor in my entire life. My neighbor was studying chiropractic. Honestly, I went to observe, I got C's and D's at school my whole life. And I was like, what? I was like a very, very, very good sportsman at school. And I was like, what? That's not going to pay the bills. I played sport that didn't pay the bills. And then I was like, what do I want to become? And I went to observe a chiropractor that he was adjusted from birth by. And I just walked in, the guy looked like he was having a party. There was like, he was just talking to people. And there was like people getting adjusted and a family over there and a family there. And I was honestly, in my naive state, I was like, I think I can do that. That's literally, I was like, I think I can do that. I never did a chiropractic adjustment before I adjusted. I felt guilty about telling that story for so long in my career, because you know how you see amazing speaker on stage who's like, I was adjusted and like,
oh, I'm so jealous of people who have the great chiropractic story. And it's
same
like
here.
the opening question on almost every podcast. What's your chiropractic story? And I'm like,
same here.
same
Yeah. Yeah, I'm exactly the same. And then anyway, long story short, I actually didn't want to continue to be a chiropractor when I finished chiropractic college.
You didn't want to become?
No, true story, I downloaded the application forms for a postgraduate, true story. My wife and I knew we wanted to move to the UK from South Africa. And I went to a college that there was very little abundance being spoken about. The lecturers, I had a lecturer tell me straight to my eyes, like straight face to face, was like, don't do it. Like, it's too hard to make it. This is my final year of college. A lecturer at college told me, don't do it. Don't practice. It's too hard. I'm like, dude,
oh my God.
I know. Dude, I've been studying for 5 years. It's a bit late now.
It's a bit late. Could you have like... That guy used to teach in the first trimester and they like moved him to the end. They're like, you're too bad for our profitability here.
So that's literally what happened. And then I moved to the United Kingdom. I downloaded the application forms for a postgraduate medical degree at Warwick University in the United Kingdom. I knew I had to study for this thing, or I had to pay for this thing. And then my first job changed my life. I walked in there, it was open plan. And the first patient I ever spoke to literally had more certainty than I'd ever seen any chiropractor at that point in my career have. He was like, young man, don't you let anybody do this surgery that I had. He had partial paralysis down one side. This is my chiropractic story, actually, is how a patient through a patient within my first day of practice ever, or when I was applying for the job, really instilled with me like, wow, there's something here. And then for 2 years, I was just engrossed in this amazing chiropractic story. And to answer your question, is like my whole family are killing it. I'm so proud of my brother. My brother was an associate in my practice for many, many years. He's in his fourth week of practice, his own practice ever. And he adjusted 204 visits last week, fourth week of practice.
Wow.
And he's on track together with new patients and stuff like that. We've got 250 to 300 visits a week within like 6 to 8 weeks of practice.
That's almost too outrageous. Fast. Like that's almost
it's outrageous. I've never seen anything like it. I'm so proud of him. We do all the marketing for him. I've got an agency too, which we'll speak about later, but he's been around me for so long, and he inherited about 40, 50 adjustments a week, something like that. So I'm so proud of him. And then my sister-in-law practices in South Africa. She's got 3 kids and also amazing chiropractor. My wife is at home now with our family and looking after me while I dragged her out from the UK. So everyone's doing absolutely awesome. Giselle, my sister-in-law, is helps my brother with the practice. And we're as chiropractic family as you're going to get.
So what came first? Would you say you have an obsession with marketing, or is it one of those skills that you're like, well, I'm just good at this, I guess I'll do it?
I think I'm somewhat obsessive personality. So I don't know.
Do you know what the Enneagram is?
I do, but I actually have never done it. And everyone
don't worry,
like,
I'll diagnose you by the end of the call.
Awesome.
It's like what you're absolutely like rule 1 is do not tell people what their Enneagram is. And I'm like, no, fuck that. If they don't know, I'll help them.
No, I really want to know, by the way. So I think in some way I've always been, whether it was sport or whatever it was, there was an element of that within me. I don't really believe in the term balance in that most people term. I think you're going to be incredibly unbalanced in certain things. When you're a parent, there's nothing balanced about,
right.
waking up 50 times a night or whatever it is. to be good at the thing. So I was just, I was associate first. I saw high volume quite quickly in my career. Natalie and I went on our first vacation and we were sitting on the beach and I was like, I don't like the feeling of us both sitting here. I felt like I was paying twice. We weren't earning
Mm-hmm.
and we're paying for this amazing holiday in the
Oh,
Maldives.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
everybody's got that experience where it's like the no PTO of like owning your clinic, where it's like, no, it doesn't cost me $5,000 to do this trip. It costs me 25 because I'm closed for a week.
So that was like my first, like, maybe I want to be a business owner. And then I went to this conference and someone in the room said, where are all the business owners? And everyone put up their hand and he said, let me ask the question again. He said, let me ask the question again. The definition of a business is a profit-making enterprise that works without you. Who has a business now? And like,
Mm.
now all the hands go down,
Everybody else had a job.
Yeah. And then I was like, okay, I've got different opinions on this in a moment, but I was like, okay, that's interesting. And then I was like really obsessed with the process of scaling. So we went from 2 practices to 8 practices in really about 5 years. We added £1 million revenue every single year for 5 years. There was more than 30% growth year on year. I do not recommend it. There's a reason I'm bald. And
It's a lot.
it was hardcore. Growth can kill, like especially fast growth
Were
like
you
that.
adjusting at all during that, or were you just
First 2 years, I was doing 4 shifts, for like half shifts, if you will, so 2 days. And then we were at about 4 practices, and I was still adjusting that. And then past that, there was no, I was kind of the seeder. I'd go in, I'd start a new practice, or if we purchased a practice, I'd go in and I'd be the first like new guy in the practice to kind of change some of the systems. So I was kind of that guy in the beginning. And then my first conference I ever went to was a Dan Kennedy conference in Chicago. I flew across, I was 26. And through that process,
all the 8
yeah.
clinics, all this shit had happened by the time you were 26?
No,
Oh,
I started it at 26.
okay. I was like,
So yeah.
dude.
So 26, I'm 39 now. So 26 to like 36, 37 was like really, good 10 years of that was my life. And then at 26, I went to a conference. It was a Dan Kennedy conference. And that was 1,000 people in the room. And I'd never been exposed to direct response marketing or any marketing really. And I did fall in love with the idea of one sentence he said from stage. And it was, I'm paraphrasing, but it was something like, the person that can make people walk through the front door or put bums in seats, it holds the keys to the castle, something like that. It's like, if you have the ability to get people to inquire about your service or do the marketing will solve any problem in a business short term.
Mhm.
Any problem short term, marketing will solve. Obviously you can't just have the revolving door once you get leads in,
Right,
but
right.
short term, if you're having cash flow problem, marketing will help you. If you're trying to recruit associates, marketing is going to help you. Your podcast, for example, I'm one of the, in your podcast and your social media presence. By the way, I've been teaching all my doctors to make sure they follow you like crazy. And seriously, because I'd be like, just look at what she's doing. And if you look at the social proof on, let's say, your Instagram page, if you're trying to recruit an associate, for example, just everything's better because of that, whether it's new patients, whether it's so that the branding / marketing thing, it's just, everything's just easier or more downstream off the back of that. So that's, to answer that question, is then I became really obsessed with that. And then just business as a whole. I just love business. I'm just about the most well-read person I know on business. And that's not, I'm not necessarily proud of that. People should be more well-read about it. But I struggled at school. I could barely read or write. I'm dyslexic, but I just loved business books. And so it was the first time in my life I was like, wow, this is really interesting. And I love this. And I love the idea of working it out. So to answer your question, it was more the business and marketing that really like changed my life.
Oh my God, I have 17 questions. Okay. So while you were scaling so the Dan Kennedy marketing thing was before you started 8 practices.
Yes.
Okay. So you really fell in love with marketing and that
Yes.
concept early.
Yes.
What was driving you to have 8 practices? What was the motivation there?
I think it was freedom more than anything.
Really?
Yeah,
And then did
ironically.
you I was like, and did you get that, Ryan?
Yeah. Do you know what it is? I think it's the perception. People always ask me about like, because I started 8 practices essentially. So that people often send me messages and they're like, how do what do you need? And I'm like, my basic criteria for them, if you're looking for a site, it's like ground I like in the UK, there are lots of first and second floor, and it's big cities too, right, in America. So I'm like ground floor, and there must be the perception of parking. And people are always like, what do you mean perception? I'm like, there must be like a big parking lot, but in reality, the parking lot's often always full, right? But you must be able to say to patients, hey, because in big cities, it's like there's no parking. Like if you can have the perception of parking, that helps. So to answer your question, it's like the perception of me being able to, if you say to me, I have to be every single Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, I have to be somewhere that fills me with like a feeling that I'm trapped. Now, the reality is I don't often waft off into Europe with a backpack or the Maldives, but I can because I don't have, I can, like I just came here on a vacation and I stayed.
Right.
That's the perception of being able to do that across all my businesses has always been. In reality, I love business and I love working. I literally love working. For me, 20 one-on-one calls with my consulting clients across 3 days is actually, I'm a happier human being when I'm engaged in that process. But I could find all my clients, I could message all my clients and say, hey, I'm going to move you from this Thursday to next Thursday. I'm going to Disney on Thursday.
Okay, but
But
you could have established great freedom because you're talking about basically the idea of, and I relate to this hardcore, of that brick and mortar suffocation, right? Like, but you could have created freedom with one clinic. Like, you could have done that. That doesn't, like, you don't go to 8. Like, because
no,
I have
and
2, got to 3, was like, nah, I'll go back to 2. The third one was a weird one. I'm not saying I won't do a third at some point. I just have to do it differently. But like, you don't you don't accidentally do 8. So what else were you chasing besides freedom?
I think I've always I do enjoy, I really do enjoy the challenge and the turmoil and the angst. We're entrepreneurs are weirdos. Like
Yeah. So were you like
we
testing like, okay, this went well once. Can it go well twice? Okay, it went well twice. Can
no,
we
no, I
do it a
never
third
ever had
time?
any doubt. I never had any doubt. And there was zero doubt at all that it wasn't going to go well. I never for 1 second, I know it sounds weird. I never for 1 second like thought like it wasn't going to go well. I believe in, I love what they call what I call the oh shit moment. It's like, when you sign the lease and you've signed the lease and there's no turning back and you're like,
You
there's no
have to make this work.
failure is not an option. If you put me in that position, I put me in that position fast. It's the deliberating of the thing that's killer. And I did that with a business partner. And one day he came home. He was supposed to have a meeting with someone for a new site. And he came back from the meeting. He's like, he had the lease and I just signed it. It was the best practice we ever did. I didn't have to
Yeah,
think about it.
I'm sensing patterns in you that you just sign these things without talking to major partners in your life.
No, actually, he signed it. He just signed it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And he came back and he was like, dude, it was in front of me. I just signed it. We really liked the site, didn't we? And I was like, oh, yeah, I guess so. But now I have to make it work.
Now you have to make it work.
And I quite enjoy that process. So I've always yeah and there's some negatives to this too, but I've always been quite driven to achieve the next thing. And there's pros and cons of that.
Just for everybody listening, yes, we are circling around an Enneagram 3. Don't know the wing yet, or 7 wing 8. It would definitely be a 7 wing 8, but I'm
Awesome.
teetering back and forth. So,
Yeah,
okay,
cool.
so what is it? The excitement of starting something from scratch, growing it, the challenge, and then once it's going, do you kind of get bored and need another like challenge?
I have a disease.
Yeah,
It's called when
ADHD.
massively, but I have I'm sure you have, but Robert Kiyosaki, and most of our
Mm.
listeners would have heard of Robert Kiyosaki. So I toured with Robert Kiyosaki for 3 weeks in Europe. And then I worked with his best friend is a guy by the name of Blair Singer. And just about anyone on the speaking circuit in the world has done something with Blair. Blair's a master communicator, an amazing human being. He's probably my longest standing kind of coach on one-on-one basis my whole life. And he's Robert Kiyosaki's best friend, a rich dad advisor, wrote an excellent book called Sales Dogs. And I was on a session with him once, and he's like, when someone else can see it and you just can't see it, and he's like, what your superpower is, right? I'm like, no, what is it? What is it, Blair? Like, what is it? And he said, there's two things that you said you just can't help yourself. You serve at a certain level, And then that just becomes you become root bound there, and then you just can't help yourself but to serve at another level. So I've kind of always been doing that. I felt frustrated at some point in my career. I felt very frustrated about the one-on-one in a patient basis. And then I was like, well, we can do this. I can scale this. And then we scaled that. And then when people started asking me for help, I got very frustrated that, let's say, I had the practices, because I was like, I can reach more people by helping them serve more people. And we built the biggest consulting group in Europe. And then people started asking me, hey, can you just do the marketing for us? No plans, zero plans to do the marketing for them. And they were like, hey, I can serve more people by helping them do the marketing. And then we're over 100 practices now worldwide we do all the marketing for. So that's been a pattern, and that's been a pattern in my life. So I think that will continue in some way, shape, or form. But maybe that's probably the best way I can answer your question, I think.
So I am not hearing any sense of like ego in what drove you earlier. Like it wasn't like the need to prove to anyone that you were good at this, or like validity from the profession or anything like that.
Not from the profession at all, but I do definitely think there's always an element within me that is wanting to prove a little bit. I struggled at school, was probably from that perspective. I'm dyslexic, had challenges around that. And I think there was always a little element of that. I like to be written off a little bit. So
Mhm,
there's
mhm,
always a little bit of I wouldn't want to compete with me. like,
mhm.
like, I'll show you. But that's anyone listening to this right now. I don't. I say that in so much as that's also the thing I need to work on the most. It's not. It's not. It's like,
This audience, probably more than any audience within chiropractic, is very I don't have time for just the ego guests that are
yeah.
like,
Mhm.
I am
Mm.
perfect, let me tell you how I figured out
Oh,
and solved the world. And I'm just like, there's no, like, that's not helpful nowadays. It's just not showing up as a vulnerable leader, going like, yeah, I deal with these things and I'm working on it, and like these are constant things. Like, that's not helpful anymore, and I don't think people respond to it well.
no, and it's just not true.
Yes, I think people's bullshit detector is a lot higher.
I don't know if you've watched have you seen the podcast Diary of a CEO?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a comedian which the American listeners on this will be less familiar with, but you should listen to his podcast. And it's the only thing I've listened to twice in a long time. His name's Jimmy Carr, and he's got a TV show in America, in the UK, and he's amazing. And just to get to where he was, he did 300 gigs a year. I can't even contemplate that. Like,
No.
think about that. That's in a
And
different city.
comedians, okay, there is no way I could ever be a comedian. The amount of rejection they
Mm.
have to go through, no, my ego cannot handle. I just know. There's no way.
And I always look, and then he said something on that. He said, first of all, I think that's so admirable and almost literally impossible to pull off. I cannot contemplate 300 gigs a year. And I love speaking. I love speaking at events. And then he said something. He said, I think imposter syndrome is excellent. I think everyone should be chasing imposter syndrome every 18 months, or should feel imposter syndrome every 18 months. And that really stuck with me. I was like, you know what? Like, whether you start a podcast, right? You've
Mhm.
never done that before. And then you start 8 offices or multiple offices. You've never done that before, and you feel like an imposter. And then you stand on your first stage, and you're like, "Well, I don't think I'm worthy to be here now." And then you're always finding the way to imposter syndrome yourself. And Les
Mhm.
Brown says, "You don't teach the thing you're best at. You teach the thing you most want to become." Most of us. So I was just always desperate to be good at business, and I teach business, and I'm in the game of being better at business. I'm in the perpetual learning game of being better at business. And most of my sessions are more of a brainstorm, like we talk about, like, yes, oh my gosh, I'm going through that too. And isn't that frustrating? And here's what I did to do that. I haven't got all figured out yet, but here's what I've got to get. I've taken multiple businesses to multi seven figures now by basically just trying to solve my psychosis. I'm like, hey, I need to solve that for now. Chasing imposter syndrome, like
Yeah,
the right
imposter
thing,
syndrome
but
really has a
yes,
negative name for itself, where
yes.
it's like, just putting it as you phrase it, that when you're feeling that, that should be a a sense to you that you're pushing yourself for growth
Yeah, you're doing
and
something that
you're
hasn't been done.
uncomfortable.
Yes.
Okay, so then you no longer have 8 practices. So did you
No,
just sell them
no,
all
no.
off?
Yeah. So throughout the process, did exit that business. It wasn't the swan song we hoped for. And we talk a lot about
It
this
wasn't the
now.
what? The what?
It's a, and maybe it doesn't translate. It's like, it wasn't the,
Golden goose?
it wasn't the fairy tale ending.
Ah,
Yeah. And what happened was we had a private equity offer from a Norwegian company, actually. It was pretty close to 8 figures for the whole lot. Not quite, but pretty close. So it was a big old day. And what happened was during the process of the due diligence, they discovered fraud. We discovered fraud from a FD. And that process had been going for like 2 or 3 years. It was my ex-business partner's FD for 17 years. And then at that point, we did a side deal. So at that point, it was like, okay, what's happening now? What I'm going to do now? My business partner, if you will, wanted to repair the EBITDA to go for another exit. And then I was just so loving this space that we had a side exit, and then I exited from that.
got
So
it.
we didn't end up selling to like a big group or so, etc. But I went through all that process, and if anyone wants to ever ask me about that, whether it's franchising, whether it's raising private equity, whether it's a roll up, so we were positioned as a roll up. That private equity was going to invest in us, and then the guy I had told them I didn't want to be part of the roll up, so that immediately decreased the amount of money I was going to get. But I was okay with that. And actually, for the listeners listening to this, someone once said to me, you're not prepared to do what you're supposed to do. And the reason they said is like and I'm like, yeah, you're right. And the private equity were buying simultaneously wanting to buy a whole bunch of
Mm.
vaccine clinics, and they wanted to mesh the two together.
They
And
wanted to mesh your chiropractic
they
clinics with a
wanted,
vaccine clinic?
yeah, yeah. So private equity just all they care is about decreasing the overhead. So they had
That
already done
is
the homework.
that is the
Yeah,
most
I
astronomically
know, I
like,
know.
what
I almost
okay.
vomited. I almost vomited at the table, and the
It was almost
my
like, were there cameras in the room? Were you
no,
on,
it was
like, a prank show?
there was literally like a hand on my lap because I was like doing this
Yeah.
to get up, and our CFO chief, he had a different guy who was guiding us through the process, had his hand on my lap, and he was like, just sit down, just listen, you know. And then I get they didn't end up purchasing us that private equity, but I guess what that taught me was I just didn't really want to be anyone else's. I just didn't want to work for somebody else.
Mhm.
I really didn't want to. I don't care if I got multiple 7 figures less. Like, pay me $2 million less. I don't care. Like, I'm good. I've never been afraid of making money. I've been very good at making money my whole life. And I was like, I'm never afraid of the next thing because the next thing's always been the biggest blessing for me in my life. So anyway, so we exited, and then I exited that. At that point, that company's still going in the United Kingdom. And then for the last 2 to 3 years, I've been a kind of consulting full time and an agency full time.
For chiropractors specifically or a broader niche?
Only chiropractors.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have spent a few years now, multiple years, coaching chiropractors in
Yeah.
marketing.
Yeah.
And like marketing is such an umbrella for like growth. So I'm sure you get into all sorts of other avenues. But what are some of the biggest hurdles that you see chiropractors dealing with?
Get simple before you get fancy. I think we overcomplicated. I am the most simple entrepreneur in the world. I literally just copy people that are doing well. And Robert Kiyosaki talks about this. This is going to help everyone so much. In school, we were taught that looking at your neighbor's work is,
It's cheating.
yeah, and is cheating good or bad?
It's bad in school. Yeah.
Bad. In business, if you
Hmm.
do not look at your neighbor's work, and I mean, you're practicing in New York and chiropractor in California is doing an awesome job on social media. And it's clear that they're doing an awesome job on social media. If you do not look at their work and copy them, you're an idiot
Mm.
because it's just and look for simple ways. They're winning. They're clearly winning. They've got something or they've figured out something that you haven't quite figured out yet. And I'll circle this back around, whether it's we get stand on the shoulder of giants. So I've got this book written by Dr. Rieder called The Chiropractic Advertiser. It's a green book. It's written 100 years ago. In the book, he talks about lunch and learns. In the book, he talks about workshops. In the books, he talks about sending your patients a print newsletter every single month. In the book, he says, send your patients a message via post in those days to come, inactive customers or inactive patients to come back to workshops like your gut health workshop, like your woman wine and wellness workshop. And it's like nothing's really new in marketing. Nothing's new. And I love what you said. I have a pet hate for consultants claiming that the thing they're teaching is theirs. Nobody came out the womb knowing how to do any marketing.
Mhm.
We had to learn it from somebody. So almost everything I teach is not mine. Nothing I teach is mine. What it is organized information from all these amazing people I got to learn from. So simple before you get fancy, and business is a team sport. I couldn't implement any of the marketing that I'm trying to do if I didn't have a team around me. I'm very bad at getting to-dos done. I'm very bad at doing stuff. I'm very good at knowing what needs to be done, but very bad at getting it done. So I've always had to surround myself with A players and people that are on the journey with me. So those two things, you need a team and start simple before you get fancy.
So what happens though? So, all right, I'm just thinking I'm in a very, very small town. And this is where, like, anytime we've worked with a marketing firm or like talked to them, they don't get how small we
Yeah.
are. So 9,000 people,
Yeah.
no, like, and we're the big town.
Yeah.
Like, we're the town. Have you ever, here, I'm going to teach you something. Have you ever heard someone say, "Oh, we're the town with a Walmart in it"?
Haven't, but now I have.
Okay, so you're welcome. I won't charge you for this piece of marketing advice that you'll need. So, when you are working with a small town, if your client says, "We're the town with a Walmart," or you can ask, like, to figure out how small, ask them if they have a Walmart and
Yes.
how close is the town that has the Walmart.
Yes.
This will 100% resonate. If someone is like, "Yeah, we have, like, 3 Walmarts." They're not small town. They might be, but they're not,
Ah,
like, micro small town.
I'm with you. I'm
Er
with you.
so we're the town with the Walmart, which
Yeah.
means that we pull, like, we don't have as much of an issue getting people from smaller towns to come to us multiple times. They may drive 45 minutes. That's not a problem because while I'm in town, I can go to Walmart, the equivalent of Home Depot. Like, they can, like, run their errands because they're in such a small town that they can't run errands in their town.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's one of the things that we really run into is, like, when we are doing Facebook ads or
Mm,
like
mm,
lunch
mm,
and learns, like,
mm.
we are also one of the only businesses that markets. Okay, so we've got the hospitals will do their advertising. There
Yes.
is a couple car, like big car, what are they called? Sales lots.
Yes. Yes.
They
Yes.
will. Yep.
Yes.
And then there's, like, a boutique who does a really good job just, like, naturally, but, like, selling clothing and beauty is, like, so much easier, like, people wanna shop type of thing.
Yeah.
We're really the only clinic, not just chiropractic clinic, there's our vet clinics, our dentists, like, nobody does educational things, and so we're on year 14. This question turned into a consulting call, by the way.
No,
I
literally,
don't
I'm
know.
taking note. Like, listen, I can't help myself. I'm
Right.
taking notes.
Good. I'm glad.
I'm
I
like,
was like, I don't
what
know
do you
where this
do?
question started.
And tell me what you're doing currently, because
Mhm.
okay, so I'm with you. I'm
Yeah.
with you. I
So
love
for
it.
the first 8 or 9 years, we were doing very regular health talks, like probably 6 a year type of thing. We did have 2 years where we did like the new patient wellness thing. That's a whole separate thing. It just wasn't I didn't love it. I didn't love it. So, but what's happening now is we really struggle getting people to come to things because
Uh,
we're the only one. So the idea that we are just here to educate,
uh,
mm-mm,
uh.
it's become like, no, 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 this is a bait and switch. I'm on to you. And I'm not saying this is the narrative in my head in our community, is because we hit a wall with COVID. Obviously, like, we stopped doing talks and stuff during that, even though we're pretty red up here, and I have a feeling people still would come. But we just can't get back into people wanting to come, even when we're marketing it as like, these concepts that are, it's not like how chiropractic can change your life. It's pregnancy workshops, things like that. But it feels as though our community is so cynical of like, oh, yeah, you're the chiropractor that markets. Like, and it's a hard thing to overcome because
Yeah.
nobody else here around here markets. Nobody.
Yeah.
Now, we're still the largest and best and this and that, but like when you're wanting to grow more and get more new patients, you're
Yeah.
also looking at like when you're placing an ad on Facebook or Google, like to get
Mm,
to do like a demographics thing of like, we want ages 21 to 55 females with kids.
No,
They're
no,
putting us out.
there's the idea of the perfect avatar has its place when in bigger markets. But when you're 9,000 people and you're going to ask, say on Facebook, you're going to put in Facebook, I want to only target females
Mhm.
between 45 and 50 or whatever. It's like,
Yeah.
good luck with that. Because
Facebook will literally say you can't run that ad.
exactly, it's like there's nobody to target, or it's only 1,000 people and won't even let you do that. So
Right.
yeah, I'm with you. So question is,
Uh, how would you fix that?
there's so many
We're
things.
14
Okay,
years
so
in. We're 14 years in. And so
yeah.
like definitely, it's a different world than it was 14 years ago. That's for sure. But like I just
Yeah.
like you can't get it doesn't seem like the dinner with a doc.
I've got you. I've got
People,
you. So,
yeah.
so let me tell you where I'll take this question. And it's, you said something very important that I have to just quickly talk about. Have you ever heard the difference, the concept of a grudge purchase versus a want purchase? A grudge purchase, like a need purchase versus a want purchase. Have
Mm-mm,
you ever?
mm-mm.
So there are nuances in the way that you market and sell. For example, people want a brand new Mercedes Benz. People want an iPhone. At movies or cinema or whatever you call it here, people want popcorn. Okay.
Mhm.
So if you look at the way they structure their pricing structure, it's more once purchase versus what we call grudge purchase. Nobody comes into our offices and goes, I really hope the chiropractor says I have to come here for the next like 2 years.
Right.
I
Right.
really like, oh, please, please, please. Hope. Yes. Is that remember? Amazing. Yes. I'll go for the bigger one.
Right.
I want the big one. I want the longer one. Can I have the longer
Mhm.
one, please?
Yeah.
Whereas people walk into Lamborghini, wherever it is, and there are people that go, I want the most expensive one with the most things. Because there's all sorts of emotional and stuff triggers. We don't get to play in that world.
Right.
We play in a world that we're trying to educate and convince people to take action on their health when they really don't want to. Okay,
Or they want it served the way that our current healthcare system is like easy
exactly
fixes.
results yesterday,
Yeah.
and that's just not the game we're in. So we're in a I've this irritating habit of listening to a lot of books for people, but I do believe one of the greatest books that people should read when it comes to selling chiropractic is a book called Selling the Invisible by Harry Beckwith. And it talks about this concept of, if you think about selling a service is selling the visible. Like people pay for a haircut before they know what the product is. Imagine, so let's say
Mhm.
the first time you go to a hairdresser, you're like, hey, it's how much, Lauren, how much is it? You tell me.
Oh gosh, yeah.
I'm not gonna, if you're
I
watching the
bet yours
podcast, if you're
is a
listening to the podcast
lot.
now, there's a bald man here that has no context for how much it is to go to a salon. How much?
Well, half of this hair is fake. So, a quarterly, probably like $1,200.
Okay, cool. So you're going to pay $1,200. You're going to go there, and the first time you go to the place, it's like, please give us $1,200, and you have zero idea what the end product's going to look like. You can't see it, you can't touch it, you
Mhm.
can't feel it. The process of getting someone to part with their hard-earned cash to pay for that thing, there's deep psychological triggers and needs that have to be worked on to sell that process. In chiropractic, you have to convince them, if you will, or get them to part with their hard-earned cash, and they don't know what the end result's going to be. And then we have a million things. There's social proof that you can build into your social media. There's testimonials. There's, do you adjust Tom Brady? Like, if you trust Tom Brady, like, people are going to be like, I trust you more,
Mhm.
and here's my money. It's just, if you've been on Oprah,
Right.
you don't really need to do much marketing. You're good.
Yep.
People are going to throw money at you. It's all good. But if you're lacking that, you really do have to understand the process of. I know you want to say something there. You want to,
Well,
yeah,
so what's interesting is you're talking about this invisible. So like women will go to a hairdresser with a picture from Pinterest. So
yeah,
they will have, and it's good, always going to be like this gorgeous model. And they're just like, I just want to look like this. And it's like,
yeah,
so they have this inspiration. They have a picture in their head
yes,
of what this end result is going to be.
yes. So that's towards. They want to go towards the fancy car, the nice haircut, the whatever. In chiropractic, essentially, we're in away from most of the time. Most people come to us because they want to move away from a significant challenge in life. They want to move away
Mm.
from the pain, away from the fact that they can't. Even though they want to be able to play with their kids, they won't be. The first part of that is I want to move away from the sharp pain when I bend down, or away from the way I feel. So that's like the difference between a want
I
purchase and a
get it.
need purchase. You with
People
me? It's
don't
like
go, yes, yes, yes. You don't go to
it's
your hair
away
salon
from
because you're
something.
like, I feel ugly. Get me away from feeling ugly. You're
Yeah,
inspired by going towards
yeah.
aesthetically pleasing in chiropractic. But chiropractors are often so trying to be like, move
Yes,
toward this
yes,
and not
yes.
focusing on away from this.
Yeah, which is so inbuilt in us. So when I started doing workshops and health classes, I couldn't help myself. You hear every single some people we really admired that changed their life talk about never diagnose, and we never talk about pain, and then when you observe them, like they do diagnose. They just point to an X-ray and say you've got something. It's called a subluxation.
Mhm,
That's so we deal in a diagnostic and prescriptive sale. Okay,
mhm.
so everyone, I know I triggered someone by saying the word
Oh
diagnostic.
God, yeah.
Stick with me. Yeah. It's like, I don't care how vitalistic you are. The most vitalistic chiropractor I know, who I love with all my heart, still puts up an X-ray, points it, and goes, "There's your problem. It's called a subluxation. Would you like me to fix it?" I'm paraphrasing, but you
Mhm,
get it's away from something. So first of all, I just couldn't help but share that with people for a moment. If you're struggling, whether it's to convert, just there sometimes has to be an element of that built into your sales process. And it's not necessarily pain, or diagnosis that we talk about. It's finding out how it's affecting their life and asking the good questions, and kind of like
mhm,
almost like you've done with me on this interview. You've even said to me, like, why did you do that? What was the pain, challenge, or
mhm.
thing that drove you to do that? It's a similar process. Like, why are you here? Like, Ryan, why did you end up doing this psychotic thing, running multiple businesses? I want to understand that. What is the pain behind that? What's the thing? And that, what I call truth finder questions, the truth is the most persuasive thing. It's like, why are you really here? Like,
Mhm.
what do you want to move away from? And then in that, the sale becomes a lot easier. Now, park that for a second and let me talk about your practice.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Unless you want to jump in.
No, go ahead. No,
No.
no, you're good.
So normally I'd start this type of consultation with, tell me what you're currently doing that's working. Because sometimes that's the easier path to success. So it's like, for example, I've got a chiropractor who contacted me last week. He's like, dude, I'm doing lunch and learns right now in businesses. I'm easily getting into one a week. I wanna, and I'm like, he's like, I've been thinking about trying to get into two. And I was like, let's work on that for now, because I'm pretty sure if you're doing that well right now, it's just a little, I'm very good at rinse and repeat and scale. I've always scaled, right? So I'm like, sometimes it's easier just to do something you already have quite a lot of efficiency in and do it more. And then someone's going to be listening to this going, yeah, but there's only one of me. Great. I just did an Instagram post or Facebook post recently, yesterday or the day before, and I showed the list. We built our 8 offices, Lauren, before there was social media
Right.
was a big thing.
Mhm.
So I showed that in 2017, in a 6-week period, we did 80 screenings. That's 80 across my 8 offices. 80. Okay. Now we built a $7 million a year business, basically off the back of what most people can do in their sleep, but just refuse to learn how to scale it. And I didn't personally show up to one. I built a team to do it.
Mhm.
I had the right commission structure to do it. 80, most people can't even contemplate doing one a week, let alone 80 in 6 weeks. 80
Yeah.
screen 6 weeks. So if you think about the business person I had to become to persuade and train screeners to do it. So we didn't have to have chiropractors do it. And then we had like, does it work better with one person screening, two people screening?
What'd you find
And
out? 1 or 2?
uh, uh,
1?
so, so two works better, but it throws the cost per lead. 2 or 3 works better, like more people, but it throws your costs out if you're scaling like I
How do
did.
you keep them from just not talking to each other because they're so
Yeah.
uncomfortable?
And interestingly, our stats showed that if the salesperson slash screener did the screening by themselves, the stats would go down and the chiropractor was with them.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because the chiropractor wants to fix the problems right there and talks too
Yep.
much. And wants to
Oh.
yeah. And it's like, no. The sale is we need a proper look at you in the practice.
Yes.
I see what's going on
Oh,
here.
yeah, the number of times that I've been at a screening and I'm like, "Uh-huh." Yeah, and
So
I'm
the
thinking
screen,
like I'm connecting. This is really gonna
mm.
get them in, and not
So
necessarily.
the screener couldn't help them. They were like, look, I'm not qualified to do this, but I do know this and this is going on, and we better get you in front of one of my chiropractors. Anyway, so the truth was, I'm often really, really good at just finding out what's really working in the practice and just putting some petrol on it. And then going back and going, let's look at the basics. So in your case, I would ask you the same questions, like what's working really well, and then go one step deeper. Is there is no denying the fact, I think smaller towns are easier to get show up, by the way, if we engage a little bit more. I think you're 100% right about the bait and switch, people getting aware of that. And there's two stats I'll tell you. One, an effective print newsletter needs 80% non-relevant information. So let me say
Mm.
that again.
Mhm.
It's not about the insertion of the ITB article.
What's
It's not about
ITB?
telebill band,
Oh,
or it's not about
oh,
your
God.
SOAs.
I
Yeah,
thought
it's
that was
not.
like a marketing term. I was like,
No, no,
what?
it's not about like, oh, this muscle is so important to your body. It's not about how to always live healthier. It's kind of a gossipy type newsletter that the team. This is what the team did here, and Lauren was in Bahamas here, and look at the photos,
Mm.
and and people are making yourself a character, making yourself a character in their
Oh,
lives
interesting.
is actually where we see the biggest bang for your buck in those newsletters.
And
Then,
do you distribute through what's your best distribution in
well, I'm
2024?
a big believer in print. So I know this,
Really?
yeah, massive, 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 massive
Print?
print, baby.
Still? Well, because is that because we
No,
don't get
even
real?
no, not still more now. Why? Because you
Why?
want to show up, you want to show up where other people aren't showing up.
Right.
Every Tom, Dick, and Harry is doing a Facebook ad now, aren't they? Every Tom, Dick, and Harry is doing. So I want to
Mhm.
show. Back in the day.
By the way, that's the only thing that's worked for us in the last 3 years is Facebook ads.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Uh, Amazing. Well, it's
But
great
well, it's
because in
kind of
some
annoying.
areas,
It's annoying
I know.
because so 2022, just to share some numbers, I think we did like $45,000 that year in Google and Facebook ads
Yeah.
and had great new patient numbers, and then 2023, we had a lot of staff. Now, we won't go into that. And I was like, "You guys, we are paying all of this. I would rather take this pool of money and distribute it as bonuses to you." So we pulled way like you do the work to get like, wouldn't you rather make an extra 5 grand? Like, did all this stuff.
Nothing.
New patient numbers
Dry.
flopped.
Yeah.
So then we're entering 2024 and we're like, okay, I guess we're just pouring money back into Facebook until we figure Facebook ads and Google ads until we figure this out.
Listen, I run an agency, so I get that. But however, that being said, if we look at like the newsletter strategy, might be more for there's studies that show in online membership courses, sending anything in the post on a monthly basis increased retention by 4 to 6 times.
Can we
So
start
then
quarterly?
you can
Okay.
absolutely, and no, and one other thing.
Because that would totally be my personality of like, I'm going to go in on Monday, by the way, and tell my team, like, all right, so here's what we're doing. Ryan said it's going to work. We're
Yeah.
going to, don't worry, Chat GTP is going to put this together for us. And we're going to do monthly and our
No,
patients would.
we will do it for you. But we actually do it for my
Oh,
members. So I write the newsletters for my members because I know they won't do it. So I'm just like, this is my psychosis. Like this is what I've done my whole life. It's like,
mhm.
hey guys, here's a good one. At least send an email to your database every single week. Like
What?
you have to send. Email is still listed as one of the biggest
Oh,
return on
fuck. We're not
investment.
doing any of this.
Yeah, but this is so easy for me. I love that, by the way, because for me to help
There's
someone,
room for
anyone,
growth. Yep.
it's so
I do
easy. It's
too.
like, hey, just trust me, a bad email 1 to 2 times a week is better than no email. Trust me. Because here's the thing, we're being omnipresent. They need to, you need to, and they might not click on 47 emails, but the 48th email arrives in their inbox a week after your print newsletter arrived, a week after they saw your Facebook ad, and then they're going to say, hey, how did you find us? And I say the email. It wasn't the email. It was
Mhm.
the Facebook ad. It was the
Yes.
print
Yeah.
newsletter. It
That
was
is the
the
hardest part in tracking. Like,
never.
we've
It's
been
not
trying to
possible.
track, like, I would love to be able to confidently be like, well, 15% are this. And then, but like everybody goes like, oh, I drove by. And it's like, no,
No, no, not
that's
possible.
not,
But
yeah.
I want to finish the point on the print. What I would recommend for anyone listening to this is, what do people think about print? They think it's expensive. Well, you pay what you get what you pay for. So,
Right.
yeah, it's expensive for a reason. And if it's expensive for a reason, guess what? I've got one street in Sarasota. I think I'm up to every time I drive down the street, my wife and I see another chiropractor. I think we're up to like 13 chiropractors on one street. Okay.
Mm.
And I'm like, trust me, if you one of the 13, 12 of the 13 are not sending anything in the post.
Right.
So the fact that it's expensive is a barrier to entry. Great. Fantastic. That means everyone down the street's not doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Lovely. That means they're not going to get any print from them. So I want to show up when nobody else is showing up. And another thing is everyone thinks expensive because they think of their whole database or their whole patient list. I would rather you leverage, what's it called, Lauren? 80-20 rule called Pareto's
Oh,
principle.
yep.
Yeah. So there is 20% of your customers are responsible for 80% of the revenue
Yep.
in every business. And we did the stats, 10 million pounds worth of revenue. I literally traced back 8 million pounds to less than 20% of our customers. Okay. 8 million pounds came from less, let's say whatever the amount was.
Mm-hmm.
And that exists in all our business. So here's how you start in this process. Instead of sending quarterly to the whole list, you go, what are my top 200 active customers? And who are my top 200 inactive customers broken down by spend? So let's say we
Like
go,
how long they were a patient for and how much money they
yes,
gave you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But you've
yeah,
lost them.
yes, you lost them. So
Mm-hmm.
you're going to send them a newsletter every single month because it's crazy how much money we will prepare to spend. Think about this. You just told me your stats. We will happily spend 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, $100 per
Mm-hmm.
lead who's never, some people, it might be 10 or whatever, but we will spend that to acquire a customer who's got no proven buying within your business. A buyer is a buyer is a buyer, but we won't spend $10 a year to send Mary Smith a newsletter who spent over
Mm-hmm.
$20,000 with us.
Do you break it? Okay, so
No.
question. So I'm a family chiropractor.
Yes.
And so if I were to look, is this by individual? Because, or am I chasing a family? Because here, let me explain why I'm asking, although you may already know, but so I may have a family because when we're so good at getting entire families under care.
Yes.
And then what sucks, what really sucks is when you have, let's say, a family of 5 that's all doing weekly care
Yes.
and something happens,
Yes.
they look at that big beefy, like, we need to cut back on the budget. Well, we're giving the chiropractor $500 a month and you lose them all of them. Like any family, you don't lose one. They like 9 times out of 10, they don't go, well, maybe just these 3 kids don't need it and me and this will keep going. So do I chase the family who maybe I was getting more revenue from, or do I chase the individual who was up there? Because it feels like they're easier to get back because in their head,
Yeah, this has got a two-part question. Is that actually logistically it's very difficult to do anything but the following. First of all, you're gonna want to eliminate all your under 18s because you look like a weirdo when you send a, because you're
oh
gonna
shoot.
put
Okay, so as pediatric practice, there's a lot of pediatric practices. Okay, so we're not
so
chasing the 6-year-old.
so
Yep, that
everyone
makes
everyone
sense.
listening to this, we write down list segmentation. So we're gonna have to do some work here. We're
Yep.
gonna have to go, all right, we're gonna put it into a spreadsheet and it's gonna auto populate the ages, and you're gonna like eliminate all under 18s because you look like a weirdo, or all under 25s. Some people do, or
Mhm.
under 20s, who look like an absolute weirdo if you're sending emails or texts to Emma who's 7.
Yeah.
So yeah, so first of all,
This seems really common sense and like, but you're just like, yep, nope, valid.
so first of all, do that. And then that's going to be left with the parent or the person. So if this is a logistics thing, and then actually, you know what? We're not going after anything or anyone. We are trying to show up in their life and what Dan Kennedy calls, we want to kind of populate the environment somehow physically. So what I mean is we want to be, the thing about newsletters, if you speak to most people that listen to me, I own a piece of real estate in their house. I normally have like a book in their house, right? So
Mhm.
from newsletters, you can own a piece of real estate in the house because newsletters, when your child brings home a newsletter from school, it normally sits on the fridge or the kitchen table for ages. So
Yeah.
the shelf life of a newsletter, you with me?
Yeah.
You see, the shelf life of a newsletter is longer than just about any other media, even a postcard. Like when you say people don't, in your area, people not responding to the, hey, come see me postcard, But this is not a hey, come see me postcard. This is just you owning a piece of real estate in their life. You're like
Right.
you lying around on their table. And then they gather them, and then there's dust, and then one goes in the bin, and then three stand on the fridge, etc. And then they drive past the practice, and I thought I'd just drive in today, and they don't ever think it's a newsletter. So I can't tell you right now that there's I can't show you the definitive return on investment of this. I'm just telling you everything is better if you're showing up in their environment in some way, shape, or form. And you're going to have to trust me in this. And you're going to have to do it for 2 years to see, hey, our retention is just a little bit better. People are showing up to our workshops, because here's another thing that print thing does. If you want people to show up to, say, your workshops, like gut health workshop in the practice, you have to demonstrate the thing you want people to do in your business. And how do you do that? You can demonstrate a packed room. You work your behind, or you work really hard to get one room packed, right? And then you're going to show the photos of that in your newsletter. You're going to show the photos of that in your email that you're sending weekly. You're going to show the photos of that on your socials. And now people are like, it's kind of normal to go to workshops there, because nobody wants to be the first to go to anything. So anyway, am I?
Yeah. What kind of information are you
direct me
doing
in the direction you want to go next? Sorry,
what
say
kind
again?
of information are you doing in the email? So I like the concept that like 80% of this newsletter is like, so I'm just thinking like my associate just got married. So like, boom.
Beautiful.
It's gold. It's gold.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So I also love that there's no real ask in the newsletter, right? Like, it's not like, come in as a new patient. We're doing this new patient special. Like, it's very just like, yeah. We're just here, not selling, but just informing, right?
Tiny little stub, like little dotted line at the bottom of like the last page that's segmented to. This is where you get people like, it's not working. I'm like, what are you doing? And like, is there any thought in the process? So for example, your inactive customers, you can have a tiny little stub at the end saying, if you haven't been in for a while, would love to see you. And remember, we've already segmented the list. These are proven buyers. So for these people, it may be appropriate to say it's a free examination. Because we look, never give everything away for free. Listen, Mary spent $20,000 at the practice. I'm giving her a free examination. Like, please, don't talk like this. Absolute lie. Anyone that tells you should never give the thing away for free, it's just nonsense. I do say never give the adjustments away for free, but even that's never. Like, if Mary spent $20,000, I may say to Mary, come back for an initial appointment and your first adjustments on me, because you spent $20,000 at the practice. Nothing's ever a never, but she's qualified. She deserves that. All this is a message to market match. Our message is matched to this market, which is proven buyers. So inactive customers, we may say, hey, pop back into the practice whenever we haven't seen you for, or like just at the bottom, just say, if you haven't been in for a while, pop back in. Active customers, we may have a referral voucher at the bottom that just says, if you haven't brought one of your family members in, but it's very small. If you can see, if you're watching the podcast on YouTube, it's a tiny little ask at the bottom.
It's just like, oh yeah, by the way. Oh yeah.
Yes.
Just I'm not trying too hard. I'm not trying.
If you want to come in, do that. The point is just to show up in their life. There was another point I was going to mention now, but it'll come back to me. Oh, what goes in the news? What goes in the newsletter?
No, what goes in the email?
In the email. Email is also. You actually, I've seen you post a picture before with his book before, Russell Brunson. Are you familiar? Yeah. So .com Secrets was one of his first books that he wrote. And in the book, he speaks about this concept. I kid you not, this is how the story goes. He talks about an email, something called a Seinfeld email. Do you remember? I don't know if you remember him saying that. So, and I was like, what is this Seinfeld email? It's like, he said, here's the concept behind a Seinfeld email. First of all, the sitcom, this audience might be a bit young.
I'm with you though. I've rewatched Seinfeld. This is like what my husband and I will watch when we're falling asleep.
All right. So what's Seinfeld about?
Nothing.
Nothing.
It is famously about nothing.
Exactly. So your email is about nothing. It's about nothing. It's about, Lauren, tell me what irritated you this week, or you found interesting this week, or what irritated you in the news, or what new product are you trying that's cool? What comes to mind?
Oh God. You can't put me on the spot. I don't know. Collagen. I'm getting old and I am trying to
I want something.
add collagen.
I want something less related to health.
Oh, shit.
Less related.
But that's
Tell me about the
though.
holiday vacation you've previously been on.
Okay, I was just in Nashville.
Awesome.
Just in Nashville.
Subject line. Tell me something funny that most Americans would know about Nashville, or that's famous for music, right?
Yeah, music, bachelorette parties.
Awesome. Nashville / bachelorette party / can't say anymore. Subject line. Okay.
Mhm.
Then, hey, Marriott. I recently was in Nashville. As you know, Nashville's famous for bachelorette parties, and boy, there were bachelorette parties everywhere. It really got me thinking about why people spend so much money on this thing that's, and often those same people are not spending that much money on their health,
Okay,
which
so you did
really,
bring in health.
yeah, within the
Okay.
story,
Okay.
within the story,
Okay.
I might bring in
I'm
health.
glad you mentioned that because I was just gonna be like, yeah, it's weird.
It was
Anyways,
tequila.
have a good day. A little too much, not about anything.
Yeah, so we're
But you
going to,
tie in.
yeah, we're going to bring it back to something. And then it got me thinking about, here we go. You want people to show up to your workshops. Then it got me thinking about community and a good group of people getting together over a period of time to celebrate something. And that's what we do at our workshops. It's a time and place for people to show up. So I'm demonstrating within the email what people in my space
What's the
do.
perfect length?
There isn't a perfect length. Dan Kennedy says as long as it needs to take, but it could be. I've written emails. I'll tell you what better answer that question. So a nice succinct, Einstein said, I don't have time to write you a short letter, so I'm going to write you a long one.
Mm.
Yeah. And what he meant was it's harder to write a good, succinct, you got to spend, if you spend,
Right.
my tip is vomit it out, like just type it out and then leave it alone. And then come back to it a couple of hours later or next day. And the magic's in the editing. And you'll normally edit half of it out, and then you are in a good space. And one more
Or
little
you'll
tip
just copy and paste it into Chat GPT and say, like, make this shorter.
you can,
No?
yes. But I'm just my team does that all the time. I just don't. But I don't because because I just don't.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I was going to come up with some reason. I'm like, no, I just don't do it. But I also a couple of tips for you. Most important thing on your email is what?
Subject line.
Yeah. So anything
Okay.
gets read. Next most important thing in the email is what?
Call to action?
PSs at the bottom of the page. So
PS.
they've done
Okay.
heat maps of the emails. And what happens is people read the subject line. The next most read thing, typically people scroll to the bottom of the email to see how long it is. And
Okay.
then at the bottom of the email, you can never have too many PSs. So PS, if you haven't been for a checkup in a while, click this link. PSS, if you want to come to our upcoming workshop, gut health workshop, that's on this date. PSSS, if you missed that we're going to be at the local fair Saturday the 25th, PSSSSSS, you can never have too many PSs. It's called like double readership path. So actually, we want to summarize the email and the call to actions in the PSs at the bottom of the email. So if all they did was read the PSs, we're gonna get some point across, like next event, like click here to book, like come to my next workshop. Does that help?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have so much knowledge. Do you do workshop? Okay, like we could talk first of all, I'll need to book a private call so we can actually because I would love to see, but I'm assuming doctors are having to write the emails. Your company can't write the emails.
So we do write the emails for them, and then it's better if they edit it. So I've got an incredible copywriter that writes so what he does, it's better if you write it, but what he does, like let's say a topical subject my consulting clients get two things done for them as part of their service. We do their print newsletters for them because I'm sick and tired of asking them to do it and they not do it. I just do it for them. The next thing is we just write the emails for them because I'm sick and tired of telling them to send an email. So my job is to get you to a 7 out of 10. Your job is to take the rest of the way. And in marketing, the killer blow is starting from scratch. So when you stare at a blank screen,
Oh yeah,
horrible, terrible, right? So my job, I might deliver an email. It lands in the inbox on a Monday, and it's a conversational email. It might be about the weather today because it's hot, whatever. And then often people end up if they use 50% of it, a lot of my clients just forward it. And I had a message last week actually from someone saying they had 6 reactivations from one email. Now, before someone goes, give me that email, it's not about the email, it's about the 46 they sent before that. Okay, so we just do it for them. But yes, we do. I do love this space, Lauren. Like it's a real passion of mine, and I love talking about it. And I have 2 things. We've got a workshop in Orlando on the 18th of May, which is a 1-day marketing crash course. I'm not sure when this podcast is coming out. And then actually in Atlanta, we've got Les Brown coming, the legend. This will be a younger audience, but if you go Google Les Brown, he's one of the most famous personal development speakers I've come ever to live. And he's going to be live in the room in Atlanta. So I've got that. And then and then I've got my website, which is dcpracticegrowth.com. That's dcpracticegrowth.com. And then I've also got a free book if anyone wants to grab that, which I should have the URL on my tip of my tongue. It's dcpracticegrowth.com/book. And if you put your details in there, we'll send you a free physical book in the post. You pay nothing. I'll send you a free book. So
I'm just looking.
that's,
I'm like, all right. I'm like literally pulling up my calendar. I'm like, all right, May 18th. Did you say when the Atlanta one is?
I didn't, that's July sometime. I should have that too on my tongue, but I'll
It's
tell you.
sometime in July. It'll
Yeah, it's in July. Just reach out to my team, and you'll see something on socials pretty soon. I'm sure we haven't started marketing it actually because Les only committed like a week or two ago.
Okay, so I need you to do something for me. I
Yeah.
need you, when you have time, to go to Google and put in determining whether I'm an Enneagram 3 or 7. I
3 or 7.
think you're a 7. I
Okay.
think I have a feeling you're a 7. Threes
Okay.
really deal with a lot more vanity stuff than you seem to, or maybe you just hide it well, but like 7 or threes are very like, how am I being perceived by other people? Like, really, really care about other people's opinions of them. Like, it's pretty much what drives them.
And 7.
Sevens are fun. Just fun, new challenges, new adventures. I'm bored with that. And then the wing 8 is what makes you a little like there's just a little bit of like power, challenge, control.
Mm.
You're definitely not an 8, but like that wing 8 really makes a 7 from like a just like flighty person to someone who can like launch a bunch of businesses and just dominate.
No,
So
it's interesting. My coach, I've got multiple coaches. But I actually believe a coach without a coach is not a coach. Anyone listens to this right now, I'm like, it's like a chiropractor saying you should get adjusted and like doesn't believe in getting adjusted. Literally doesn't only not get adjusted, doesn't believe in getting adjusted.
right.
So I have multiple coaches, and obviously most of my coaches right now are like, right, let's just push for boring. No more businesses, no more products, just nothing.
So
Don't launch anything.
and threes will launch a bunch of stuff too. So I will come home from runs. I'm a distance runner.
Yeah.
And so I'll come home from runs and I'll say to my husband, I'll be like, okay, what if we? And like, I just famously will just like pitch him all these things. And our thing where we're at now, which is probably, I think, a better guardrails for you than be boring, is that's not passive.
Oh,
So like
nice.
your coach might want to like
Nice.
reframe your
Nice.
ideas because you're not going to stay boring. You're not going to stay boring.
Yeah.
You're going to come up with ideas, but like maybe your next step is more passive ideas of like, oh, yeah, you're right. You're
Yeah,
right.
that's
You're right.
great. I'm actually a real estate investor, so I do love that
There you
space. Yeah, but I'll tell you last year, just to this point. So we had this marketing agency, and we're generating all these leads. And I was meant to talk about this when you said we did best of Facebook. But anyone listening to this right now who wants to up their game on Facebook, it's got to do with the follow up. Okay, so it's now phoning. I had a consult. I learned so much, and I had a consult with a business that does this professionally. Two stories. One is I then followed up with I just say a good idea in my office. I was like, you're generating all these leads. Some months, 10,000, more than 10,000 leads for chiropractors in a month. And we've got all these leads and they're doing a terrible job of following up. Let's just start a telephone business. So we started a telephone business. We were making 5,000 calls a week within like 3 months. We got to like 40 practices within like I started and sold the business within 12 months to a competitor because we got so bad. I was like, why did I do that? Like it was an 8 till 8. It was an 8 till 8 business, 7 days a week. The team was like 20 people, 5,000 calls. I had like tech
You're
people
my
everywhere.
favorite person.
And I was like, what the hell did I do that for? And
Oh
anyway,
my
started
God.
and sold the business. Like by any person's measure of success, that's a successful launch. Like 30, 40 practices
Yeah.
within 12 months, 5,000 calls a week. And I was like, this was dumb. Phoned my competitor because I was so bit, all of a sudden I was like, and the margins are quite low in that business. You really need to be
Yeah.
in massive scale. And I
Yeah.
phoned my competitor and I was like, yeah, dude, I think I'm going to close it. He was like, don't close it. I want to buy it. That's literally how I
Oh
sold
my
business.
gosh.
Yeah. And I
You are
sold
my
that.
favorite. You are my favorite person. Like I see so much like mirroring or I'm just like, "Oh, this is what I see. This is what I am like to my husband, my poor husband. Like, yep, this is exactly okay. Okay.
But
I
my
love
key phrase now is just because you can make it work doesn't mean you should do it.
right. Just because it's a good idea doesn't mean you're the person to do it.
Yeah. I mean,
Uh-huh.
for
These are
somebody,
lessons from CEOs that have
it's
spread themselves thin.
it's a great business. But I learned so much, and one of the thing was you just have to phone more. So and then in that process, I consulted with a group in Dallas. So I think this will be helpful for your listeners because they're younger and they're going to be doing Facebook ads. And then I remember jumping the call with this lady. She's really cool, based out of Dallas. All her staff on the floor in Dallas, which most people are trying to outsource these telephone people to all over the world. Which I was like, oh, she's onto something here. And then she does this for chiropractors and many other businesses, and they follow up on leads. And I'll never forget, she said to me, no, the sequence is 2 phone calls immediately, another phone call in 15 minutes, and then a phone call every hour on the hour for 2 days.
Ew.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't
Yeah.
want that though.
You don't want that, but neither do I, by the way. But 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 the point is that's the only way they were really able to. And also, don't forget, it's not cold calling. They asked for the appointment. So now within their framework, anyone listening to this right now, you can do 3 phone calls. That's going to make all the difference. The single most important phone call you do off the back of a Facebook ad is the phone call you do within the first minute, bar none.
Minute?
Minute. There's a
So yeah, that's
research
why you need it 7 days a week.
there's a research paper. Okay, obviously within working hours, and then there's only anyone doesn't don't get too overwhelmed. There's only so much you can do. But if you're during working hours, there was a research paper that showed percentage drop in conversion of lead, and it's heartbreaking. You see the difference in 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
Oh,
Basically, if you're phoning the next day, the lead's so dead, you may as well not phone,
oh
according to
my
the research.
God.
I know. Like, so the number one thing you can get from this list right now, I have just helped, I promise you, I hope thousands of people listen to this. If you're doing the phone calls in-house and you go, guys, when the lead opts in, there needs to be basically like a freaking alarm going off. Like 4
Yeah.
people need to get emailed, 4 people need to get text within the practice. Phone, 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 phone. And if all you do is take that with a pinch of salt and you phone to like the double tap, it's like phone. If they don't answer, put down phone immediately. Or if you feel uncomfortable with that, trust me, it works. Phone, you must phone within 5 minutes to 15 minutes and try phone more than once within 5 to 15 minutes, and then whatever you feel comfortable with.
Hmm.
But I will say this, if you do heed my advice and go, it needs to be at least 5 to 20 calls within the first 48 hours.
Well, Ryan, there's been some highs, there's been some lows. This has been
It's mostly lows for me. I mean,
shit.
I'm like 3 Enneagram. Oh, what I need to go work on.
Yeah. Thank you so much. We will have that link for the book below as
Awesome.
well. And I'm gonna try and figure out how to get my ass to Orlando May 18th. You
Cool.
said Orlando?
Yeah.
Mm. Okay,
Celebration
okay.
Orlando. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. This is really delightful. I appreciate it. And I look forward to getting to meet you in person.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time.
All right, She Slayers. Until next week. Bye.